Hello, welcome to part 2 of The Little Dutch Boy. So what happened last time in part 1 was there's this little Dutch boy called Haynes or Hans. And, so one day he goes to visit his friend called Mr. Van Nodens. And, I should say this first. He lives in a little small town in Holland, and as everybody knows, Holland is very flat and below sea level. And, so people have to build dikes to prevent the sea from rushing and flooding everything. So anyway, Hans goes to visit Mr. Van Noten, and then when he goes back along the way, a storm strikes up and then causes the sea to rage so hard that it causes a crack. So Hans, seeing this, he was like, "Oh no, the dike has a crack. I should call for help." So he goes into the town and says, "Help, the dike has broken. Help, help, help." And then nobody hears them because they're all so snug up in their houses because of the storm. So, what's the little Dutch boy going to do? Let's see. Hans realized that no one could hear his cries. He stopped running, caught his breath, and considered what to do. He knew his mother must be worried about him, but the hole in the dike was growing every minute. Hans knew if the hole got too big, the sea would break through and wash away the town. As fast as he could, Hans ran back to the place where he had seen the water seeping through the dike. Just as he thought, the dike had grown bigger. Hans knew that the crack must be fixed right away. He could think of nothing else to do, so Hans balled up his fist and pushed it into the hole to stop the seawater from pouring through. Hans felt proud as he stood there, holding back the sea. He was sure that his mother would send people to look for him. But minutes turned into hours as Hans stood there, patiently protecting the dike. As darkness fell, Hans was very cold and tired. His arms had begun to ache, and he had to force himself to remain standing. He thought about the warmth in the fireplace at home as he stood in the cold rain by the dike. Then he thought about how it would feel to lie down in his warm little bed. When Hans did not come home that evening, his mother began to worry. As the rain fell, she kept watch, hoping Hans would return. Eventually, she decided that Hans must have stayed at Mr. Van Noten's house while he waited for the storm to pass. Early the next morning, Mr. Van Noten walked to Hans's home. He wanted to thank Hans for his visit yesterday and thank his mother for the tasty food. When he came upon Hans, the little brave boy was trembling with cold. Hans's arms hurt from the effort of keeping his fist wedged in the hole, and his legs were ready to collapse from standing all night. Still, Hans had to hold firm for just a little longer while Mr. Van Noten ran into town to alert the townspeople and find some help. "Don't worry, Hans," said Mr. Van Noten. "I will be back as soon as I can. You're doing fine. Just hang on a bit longer." Soon, Mr. Van Noten returned with help. The townspeople began to working to repair the dike as Mr. Van Noten wrapped Hans in blankets and carried him home to his mother. She put Hans to bed and gave him some warm broth to drink. Then she rubbed his fingers and his stiff legs to warm them up. Word quickly spread through the town about how brave Hans held back the sea all by himself. The townspeople were very curious. They went to the dike to see the hole that Hans had plugged. As soon as Hans was warm and felt strong enough, he and his mother took a trip to the dike to see the repairs that were being made. Everyone was overjoyed to see Hans. They gave him gifts fit for a hero. They shook his hand and marveled that he had been able to hold back the sea all by himself. Over and over, they thanked the boy for saving them from a terrible flood. Hans was very proud. He never imagined that he might one day save his town. His mother smiled down at him, too. She was very proud as well. The town's mayor held a beautiful ceremony for Hans. He presented the boy with a medal in honor of the strength and courage he had shown in the face of grave danger. Everyone cheered loudly. Woo! They were also proud of young Hans. Years later, after Hans had grown into a man, People continue to call him the little boy with the big heart. To this day, he has not been forgotten. The end. I hope that you liked this story, and then I also hope that you searched up these words, like marveled. Marveled is very interesting word. Yeah, people don't usually use marveled a lot, so it's good to know these words and build up your vocabulary. But that's what I've been saying throughout all of the episodes. So, yep. So I hope that you like the story, and see you back on the next one. Bye bye. This is a Dutch song. I love my Dutch songs. I live in Holland with my windmill. This windmill is good for energy. I have so much energy. Ba 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 ba